I'm going to introduce now our third speaker on the topic of gender stereotypes in South Asia, legal perspectives by United Nations-based human rights mechanisms. Our speaker is Hasini Rathnamalala, and she's an author. She holds a degree, bachelor's degree from Minnesota Law School, United States, and from the Faculty of Law at the University of Colombo. As an attorney at law, currently lecturer at the Faculty of Law here at the Defense University. She's now working on her MPhil in the area of human rights law. The floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Shah. My research topic is somewhat different. I would say it is in intangible nature. However, today I will present my research on gender stereotypes in South Asia, legal perspectives by event-based human rights mechanisms. This is the structure of my presentation. Firstly, I will introduce the topic. Secondly, I will discuss about the applicable legal standards, that is mainly based on, or solely based on CEDAW, Women's Convention. And finally, I will conclude by giving recommendations as well. The research objectives and the methodology. The main objective of my research is to see the applicability of legal measures adopted by the Women's Committee to eliminate gender stereotypes. The research methodology I adopted was the legal research based on a library research. The research design I adopted was the exploratory research design, that is revealing of the secondary data. What are stereotypes and why human beings tend to be stereotypical? Friedman gave one definition in 1997. Stereotypes are a generalized view or preconception of attributes or characteristics possessed by or the roles that are or should be performed by the members of the particular group. For example, on women, on lesbians, or on adolescents. But when it comes to the content and meaning of gender stereotypes, it was brought forward by the American philosopher Walter Lippmann. That is how we, as human beings, bring the world outside into the picture in our heads. The world outside, the picture in our heads. Now I am to discuss the applicable legal standards in women's rights law. Mainly it is about the CEDAW committee and Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Firstly, Article 2. Article 2 is recommending state parties to condemn discrimination against women in all forms, agree to pursue by all appropriate means and without a delay policy of eliminating discrimination against women, and to this sense undertakes, among the other provisions, to take all appropriate measures including legislation to modify or abolish existing laws, regulations, customs and practices which constitute discrimination against women. Article 5 of CEDAW is the most important article in this context. It says to modify social and cultural patterns of conduct of men and women with a view to achieving the elimination of prejudices and customary and all other practices which are based on the idea of inferiority and superiority of either of sexes, or on stereotyped role for men and women. Furthermore, to ensure the family education includes a proper understanding of maternity as a social function, and the recognition of the common responsibility of men and women in the upbringing and development of their children. Article 10 is more or less focused on how to eliminate gender stereotypes based on the education. The elimination of any stereotype concept of roles of men and women at all levels and in all forms of education by encouraging co-education and other types of education which will help to achieve this aim, and in particular by the revision of textbooks. revision of textbooks that are giving stereotypical attitudes on men and women, and the adoption of teaching methods, progressive teaching methods. Now I am to discuss about the work of Committee on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. It was established under the Article 18 of CEDAW, and we call it, or we introduce this as a guardian for the CEDAW Convention. Under that I will discuss about the general recommendations as well as concluding observations on South Asia. General recommendations. What are general recommendations? General recommendations are the interpretative guidelines for the articles of CEDAW issued by the Committee on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. General recommendations, up to date there are 30 general recommendations. General recommendation number 25, Article 4, Paragraph 1 of the Convention on Temporary Special Measures, among the other things it discusses. Thirdly, state parties' obligation is to address prevailing gender relations and the persistence of gender-based stereotypes that affect women, not only through individual acts by individuals, but also in law and legal and societal structures and institutions. And other general recommendations such as economic consequences of marriage, family relations and their dissolutions, that is General Recommendation 29, and General Recommendation 19 on violence against women, and Recommendation 24 on women and health, they do not directly address this issue of gender stereotypes, but impliedly they discuss about the Women's Committee on these particular general recommendations. They discuss about gender stereotypes in many forms. Let's see what are the concluding observations. Concluding observations are the periodic reports coming out as a result of the constructive dialogue between the Women's Committee and state parties to CEDAW. We call it Universal Periodic Review of Treaty-Based Mechanisms. It's common to any treaty-based mechanism. In concluding observations to South Asia issued by the Women's Committee, there is one particular commonality. That is, in each and every general recommendation issued by the Committee to South Asian countries have this particular feature that those reports discuss extensively about eliminating stereotypes in South Asian countries on women. The concluding observations on all the South Asian countries ratified CEDAW and received comments on eliminating gender stereotypes, as I mentioned before. Concluding observations on Sri Lanka got the same recommendation on eliminating socially constructed stereotypical norms and patriarchal attitudes in 2 consecutive state reports issued by the Women's Committee. For example, I would like to draw your attention to this particular para. The committee is concerned about the persistence of stereotypes regarding the roles, responsibilities and identities of women and men among the general public and the media. This is about Sri Lanka. The committee is concerned that gender role stereotyping perpetuates discrimination against women and girls, and it is reflected in their disadvantages and unequal status in many areas such as employment, decision making, land ownership, education including sexual and reproductive education, sexual harassment and other forms of violence against women including violence in family relations. This report was issued in 2011 on Sri Lanka as a concluding observation. I came to my conclusion. We could see as a research outcome, Women's Committee addresses gender stereotypes as an obstacle to achieve substantive equality in its respective domains. However, the only remedy Women's Committee applies to eliminate gender stereotypes is the education, and according to my knowledge, that is not sufficient in the current context. I made few recommendations as the outcome of my research. I suggest state parties through using the method of individual communications through optional protocol to CEDAW in eliminating gender stereotypes, introducing effective teaching methods on gender stereotypes since primary education. That make the difference according to my view. And finally, adopting a separate general recommendation on gender stereotypes. That may be general recommendation 31 by the Women's Committee. Thank you very much.